Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity may not be a traditional Zelda game, but there's still a lot of reasons to be excited for it. We've gotten a pretty good look at the game with a couple of trailers and some gameplay, and I think it looks fantastic. It seems like it combines the best aspects of the original Hyrule Warriors with the art style and world of Breath of the Wild. I've been very impressed with what's been shown so far, and I'd like to share some of my excitement with you. Some of the gameplay that's been released is only in Japanese and not very good quality, but I'm gonna use it anyway. So whether you're already super excited for this game, or just wondering what all the hype is about, here's 12 reasons to be excited for Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Number 1. Hyrule Pre-Calamity. One of the things I'm most excited for in this game is to see Hyrule before it was destroyed by Calamity Ganon. In Breath of the Wild, the world you explore is littered with the aftermath of battles that you only get to hear about. The fields are full of broken down ruins and crumbling buildings, but we never got to see what it looked like before the Calamity and what happened to destroy so much. Well, that's exactly what this game will show us. The story of Age of Calamity takes place 100 years before Breath of the Wild and before the Great Calamity itself. There are so many locations I'm excited to see in their full glory. Hyrule Castle is one, and we already have some screenshots that look very promising. But not only do we get to see the world of Breath of the Wild before it was destroyed, but we get to see the destruction itself. This version of Hyrule just keeps getting better and better. Number 2. Multiple playable characters. Since Age of Calamity is a Hyrule Warriors game, we get to play as multiple characters instead of just Link, although you can still play as Link if you want to. The characters that have been confirmed to be playable so far are Link, Zelda, Mipha, Daruk, Revali, Urbosa, and Impa. We also got a small teaser trailer showing off young Robbie and Pura, but we don't know if they'll be playable. Being able to play as all the champions is really cool, and they all have different and unique playstyles. In this gameplay we can see that Daruk will be a slower, heavier character, which makes perfect sense. Impa is quick and nimble, and Zelda only attacks using the Sheikah Slate. And I know this probably won't happen, but I would love to see some aerial combat missions while playing as Revali. Having all these characters playable will help keep the gameplay fresh and interesting from mission to mission. Number 3. Working closely with the Zelda team. In the original announcement video for Age of Calamity, the developers talked about how this game is being created. They said that Eiji Aonuma approached them with the idea, and that this game is being developed by working closely with the Zelda team. So what does that mean? Well, it means that Age of Calamity will be a canon storyline to the Zelda universe, so all the events and characters will be accurate. This wasn't the case with the first Hyrule Warriors game, where you had things like the moon from Majora's Mask coming down and crushing enemies in the world of Twilight Princess. As much fun as that was, I'm looking forward to a more grounded and realistic story in a Hyrule Warriors game. They also mentioned that the Zelda team is helping with gameplay direction, graphics, world, and all dialogue. This is about as close to a mainline Zelda game as you can get. Number 4. The visuals. This is one of the things I'm most impressed by. The art style and visuals in Age of Calamity look almost identical to Breath of the Wild. The cutscenes especially look just as good. I really appreciate all the little details, things like Link's running animation being the same and all the menu and UI elements looking just like they did in Breath of the Wild. The menu is the same as the Sheikah Slate map of Hyrule, which is awesome. The few areas that we have seen look fantastic. The grass in Hyrule Field looks as incredible as it always does, and Death Mountain, Gerudo Town, and Lon Lon Ranch also look great. The maps also look way better than they used to. In the first Hyrule Warriors, most of the maps were very linear and box-shaped, and it didn't feel like a real environment. But the maps in Age of Calamity seem like there are more wide open spaces, and even the more linear areas feel much more natural. I think Age of Calamity will be the perfect combination of Hyrule Warriors and Breath of the Wild. Number 5. The gameplay. We've gotten a pretty good look at the gameplay of Age of Calamity, and it looks even better than I thought it would. I'm sure slashing through a bunch of enemies at once is even more fun than it looks like. Traditional Zelda games usually have a big emphasis on exploration and puzzle solving, but Age of Calamity will focus mostly on the combat. But don't worry, because the combat is much more than just button mashing. There's a big battlefield to run around, and you have to capture enemy keeps to try and control the battle. There's actually a lot of strategy to this type of combat, so don't let all the explosions fool you. There will also be some exploration and puzzle elements because it is a Zelda game after all. Koroks are making a return, so that gives you a reason to explore a little more thoroughly. This time period of Hyrule is full of battles and destruction, so Hyrule Warriors is the perfect franchise to tell this story. Number 6. The music. One of the best parts of any Zelda game is the music, and that seems to be true for Age of Calamity. We haven't heard a lot of the game's music yet, but the little bit we have heard is fantastic. In the announcement trailer, there's an amazing new version of Breath of the Wild's main theme, and I can't wait to hear the full thing in-game. And if you listen closely during the gameplay in Hyrule Field, you can hear a new remix of the battle theme from Breath of the Wild. The first Hyrule Warriors had a whole bunch of awesome remixes of classic Zelda songs, and I'm sure we can expect the same thing from Age of Calamity. I also want to mention the sound effects. From what I can tell, all the sound effects are the same as they were in Breath of the Wild. So when you pick up an item or get a new objective, it sounds just like it did in Breath of the Wild. I already love the small amount of music we have gotten so far, and I can't wait to hear the full soundtrack. Number 7. Split Screen Co-op. This is a feature that we haven't seen in gameplay yet, but it's on the official website. Split Screen Co-op is a rare feature in any game these days, and it's especially rare in a Zelda game. The first Hyrule Warriors had local co-op, so it's great to see it return. From what I can tell, you can play through all the story mode missions in co-op, so you can team up with a friend whenever you want. This co-op mode can't be played online, which is kind of a bummer, but sadly it's to be expected from Nintendo. This style of gameplay works perfectly in multiplayer because the second player can actually help win the battle. A lot of times in Nintendo games, the second player is stuck doing something unimportant, but that's not the case here. Split Screen Co-op is a welcome addition to this game, and it's another reason to be excited. Number 8. Old characters. Breath of the Wild introduced so many new characters into the Zelda universe. There's the new versions of Link and Zelda, the 4 champions, and a whole bunch of side characters. But we only got to see all these people in memories, so it'll be really great to see them front and center. I can't wait to see more of the champions and their relationships to each other. There's also some characters that are still alive in Breath of the Wild, but are really old. Well, since we're traveling 100 years back in time, we'll get to see the younger versions of Impa, Robbie, and Pyrrha. Master Koga will also show up again, but it's unclear if he's the same person as Master Koga in Breath of the Wild. I loved the characters and world of Breath of the Wild so much, so it's really great that we get to see even more of this version of Hyrule. Number 9. New characters. As great as the old characters are, you can't have a new game without some new characters. Obviously we don't know all of the new characters yet, but we know some. Impa, Robbie, and Pyrrha are technically old characters, but we're getting their younger versions which we haven't seen before. This little egg-shaped guardian is also a new character, although we don't know much about it. We don't even have a name for it yet. In the most recent teaser trailer for Age of Calamity, we get to see Master Koga along with 2 new characters. There's this buff sidekick guy, as well as this mysterious hooded figure. I love that we get to see more of the Yiga clan in this game, and I'm very interested to find out who this mysterious person is. And I'm sure there will be even more new characters that haven't been revealed yet. Number 10. Clothing and weapons. In the recent Nintendo Treehouse gameplay, we got to see that you can change Link's clothing and select different weapons just like in Breath of the Wild. I'm guessing that changing clothing is a feature only for Link, but I hope the other playable characters can use different weapons too. It doesn't look like changing Link's clothing will have any impact on gameplay, and it's unclear how many clothing items are in the game, but having the option to change Link's clothes is really great. Link can also use different weapons, and similar to Breath of the Wild, there are 3 different types. There's one-handed and two-handed weapons, and also spears. We've seen gameplay for all 3 different types of weapons, and they look very different from each other. You can also upgrade your weapons to do more damage by visiting a blacksmith. These are all awesome features to have, and they make me even more excited. Number 11. Side quests, training, and cooking. Also in the Treehouse gameplay, we got to see the world map where you select the story missions, but there's much more to do than just the story. You can also do multiple different side quests and do some training to make Link more powerful. We can see some side quests involving Sheikah babysitting, and one where Link has to prove himself to his instructor. Each side quest gives you different rewards. For example, the reward for the Impa babysitting quest is a bonus heart for Impa. It looks like the side quests will have different icons for each character. Cooking has an icon that looks like a pot, and training has an icon that looks like a sword. Speaking of training, we got to see some gameplay of that too. We see Link training against Hylian soldiers, and the boss is Daruk. I like the idea of these training levels, and I hope they're available for all the characters. All of this extra content is going to make Age of Calamity even more fun to play through. Number 12. A dark story. And the last reason I have is a dark story. If you've played Breath of the Wild, you already know how this story is going to end. Spoiler alert, but most of the characters in this game do not survive the Great Calamity. This means that Age of Calamity will probably have one of the darkest Zelda storylines. Over the course of the game, we'll get connected to all these characters, which means the game could have a very impactful and emotional finale. I'd love to get a better look at the champion's fate, Zelda's courage against Calamity Ganon, and Link being put into the Shrine of Resurrection. Zelda games usually end with everything working out perfectly, but this time we'll get to see our heroes lose. I just hope Nintendo doesn't shy away from the darker themes and instead embraces them. If this story is done right, it could be one of the best Zelda stories yet. Well, there's 12 reasons to be excited for Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. I think I covered most of what the game has to offer in this video, but if I missed anything, be sure to let me know in the comments. I can't wait until I can finally play this game at the end of November. And speaking of November, next month is Zelda month. I'm already hard at work creating Zelda content, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see ya in the next one.